all present and your citizens of the United States join me in pledging allegiance to the flag bearer. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Everyone got their copies of the minutes, read the minutes. Do I have a
Motion to approve.
Second. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Minutes are approved. Approval of the agenda.
Motion to approve the agenda is written.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Approved. Okay, old business. We had talked about doing the new legislation outreach, but that was tabled until after the election. We could get everything the election taken care of before we started trying to do this.
Can make a motion to table until after the runoff.
Second.
All right, moving a second to table the new legislation outreach until after the runoff election. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? New business. That brings us to the,
we have the old business.
we have the update on the Pickens and Dawson joint resolution.
Yeah.
Almost missed that.
I reached out to Glenda Ferguson, which is the Director of Elections for Dawson County, to see if they had any changes, because last month County Attorney Phil Landrum had sent it to their attorney. Their attorney has suggested some edits, but whenever I tried to get a hold of Phil before the meeting today, I was not able to reach him to find out if he has finished with those edits. So it's still in the works between the two counties, and they saw a copy of it, they've made suggestions, and then now we'll go revise it.
Okay. All right. Now back to new business. Resignation of board member Barbara Ledom-Balducci.
Yes.
We,
Say some wonderful words. I had some words prepared, so hopefully you can hear me. I just wanted to thank everyone for their support of me as a member of the Pickens County Board of Elections and Registration, and I feel honored to have been selected to serve the state of Georgia and Pickens County. I wanted to commend the staff of Pickens County Board of Elections and Registration for their outstanding support and hard work. I think we made the right choice in hiring Stacy as the election supervisor and Rhonda as her assistant. Although they started pretty much with a blank slate, they quickly took on their duties and made tremendous improvements. The support staff of Kay Hughes, Kathy and Roger Browning, and Kathy Connell are also amazing. Together they make the election process work smoothly and seamlessly. I don't think people realize how much work is involved in running an election before, during, and after, and certainly I didn't. I want to thank Josh Chippens for leading us in the beginning and helping us get up and running in short order. And I also want to thank Joe, our chairman, and the other members of the board for their support. From the day we were sworn in, we all agreed we would work in a nonpartisan way for the voters of Pickens County, and that is what we have done. I also want to thank my husband, John, because he had to listen to me, getting up at 4:30 a.m. and all that. I have mixed feelings about resigning, but sometimes opportunities present themselves and you must take them when you can. We sold our house and we're moving near our family in Serenby and Chattahoochee Hills, Georgia. I hope I can take what I learned here and assist Fulton County in some way in the upcoming election. Thank you.
We certainly
Yeah.
Thank you for your service.
Absolutely. And I do
Enjoy.
this. Thank you.
Okay, the purchasing of new poll pads next.
Okay, in your binders, I included the quote from No Ink. Whenever we started the election for the primary, we noticed that there is a lot of extra equipment downstairs for BMDs and printers and scanners. But as far as the poll pads are concerned, there are no extras. There is 2 per every precinct. So when we had, if there was at any point in time a poll pad that had an issue, that it stopped working, we would be down a poll pad. So I am asking the board to put it to a vote for us to purchase 2 new poll pads to have on standby in case something goes wrong with one. And then we needed to purchase a couple of the extra
Encoders.
we've got those, these are the clear plastic holders where they put the license and scan, because we had several at this past election that broke. So that's the quote, and since it was a larger purchase, I just wanted the board to take a vote on it about whether or not to do it.
Do I hear a motion?
Motion.
A second.
I have a motion and second to approve the purchase of the 2 new poll pads. Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Go ahead and put them on order. The July regular meeting date change.
Our regular meeting is scheduled right there at the July 4th holiday, and I know there's going to be several board members out of town, so we just needed to take a vote to move that to a different date. I know Ms. Franzen, which is going to replace Barbara, she will not be available the first, I think it's 2 weeks. She'll be out of town. So if we wanted to vote to move it to a day later on in the month.
July, you mean?
Yes, sorry.
I'm available any Tuesday of the month.
I mean, you said the first 2 weeks you wouldn't be available, so does
Yeah.
that push us into the week of the 18th?
Yeah, probably on that Tuesday would be the 21st, or the 28th would be pushing it too close to the August meeting. So I
July?
would propose the 21st.
Thursday, the 21st.
Yes.
I have no conflict on that day.
I don't have-
July 21st?
Yeah, we could do the
Or-
18th, 19th, 20th, or 21st.
I'm good on the 19th.
Okay.
I can be as well.
You can or can?
I can.
Yes. You were good.
On the 19th, yeah.
And you won't be here.
Okay, so we're proposing to take a vote to move it to the 19th.
Yeah.
I move.
Okay.
So
Second.
moved.
19th,
19th.
second. All in favor of the 19th of July?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, our next meeting, the July meeting will be the 19th.
Oh, that's our July. We'll have the certified election, right, coming up the end
That'll
of
be a
this month,
special
right?
meeting.
Staff comments?
Like I said, Terry Franzen will be taking Barbara's place, even though there's not anybody that can take Barbara's place. I have been in contact with her. I've went ahead and sent her copies of the minutes since January. I've sent her a copy of the bylaws, so she can go ahead and be looking at those, and as well as sending her the agenda and the minutes, for this meeting that y'all have approved tonight. So hopefully she'll be up to speed. We're working on getting a date and time to have her sworn in after Barbara leaves. We have started LNA testing, and we'll continue that until it's finished. This week, early voting starts Monday, June 13th. and it goes through Friday, June 17th at Pickens County Rec Center. It's from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. And then election day will be June 21st from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. And we have received our ballots back on the Republican side. There is only the District 1 Commissioner for runoff. On the Democratic ballot, there's Lieutenant Governor, Secretary of State, Commissioner of Insurance, and Commissioner of Labor. We are working on getting the absentee ballots out in the mail by the end of this week for anybody who had filled out the application for the absentee ballot and qualified for that. And then we went by and were able to see our new office today. They have almost finished the framing in it. We've been told that once we move out, the 4-H will be moving into our office, so it possibly could get pushed up a little bit earlier in August when we move, because they have to be moved out of the building that they're currently in by September the 1st. So that's the update we have on the new location, but other than that, I don't have anything for you.
How many absentee ballots have we got? Have we gotten any absentee ballots for the runoff?
Well, it's the ones that qualified and that checked to be
Roll
sent
over.
for the entire
Okay.
year, if you were disabled or over 65.
Yeah.
And we've been working on, rolling those over in the system. So we'll know probably by tomorrow how many for sure we have, because we've been going through the process of rolling them over.
And you can still get requests in before the 10th, right?
For federal.
February. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, the window to open up, just for November, I think is August 22nd is when it will open back up to everybody.
Anything further? Okay, public comments.
Excuse me. Joe, my name is Gary Norman, and I'm a resident of Pickens County. And also, I consider myself a patriot. And I've recently had the opportunity to interact with a lot of Pickens County voters as a poll watcher. And the reason I'm here tonight is to bring something to the attention of the board that I think is very important, and I think is very important to the citizens of Pickens County. In light of what's happened with the CISA report and the DeKalb County situation and the results of a couple of races at the state level, I'd like to recommend that we have a public discussion tonight here on having the board with, if so be it, a couple of representatives from the Democrat and the Republican Party to do a paper audit to see that the paper actually matches the end result, because that's what happened in DeKalb County. Now, I can tell you from being a poll watcher, the team that I worked with, fantastic. They did a great job, and I've enjoyed working with Stacy as well. I don't think the issue is with what's being done at their level. But there are a lot of citizens in Pickens County that are very concerned about what the machines do or don't do. And so I'm asking, Joe, that you guys allow some public discussion tonight on doing an audit. Now, when I say an audit, I'm not talking about running the paper through the scanners again. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about looking at the paper, looking at who they voted on, and see if it matched what was certified. Now, I'm asking, and this can certainly come out in the discussion, but we limit it to just governor and secretary of state. Governor, there were about 7,600 votes. Secretary of State, there were 7,400. So it shouldn't take too long to do it. So those are my comments. And I certainly hope that you look upon this in a positive way, because I'm very concerned, as well as a lot of citizens that I've come in contact with, about the election in November. So that's what I have to say, and I hope that you guys will see that in a positive way. We would encourage you guys to look at it in a positive way so we can bring credibility to our elections. Now, Pickens County is a small county, one of 159 counties, but it only takes one domino to cause the whole thing to start dropping. So anyway, Joe, that's what I had to say, and I mean it in a positive way. I don't mean it in a negative way at all. I want to bring closure to this whole issue about what the machines do and what they don't do. And I think this would help us, and if we could do it in a prompt, credible, transparent way, I think it would bring tremendous credibility to the county, and I think it would be a great example for all the other counties in the state. Even though we're small, I think it would be a great example. So anyway, those are my comments, Joe.
I certainly understand what you're saying, and the only problem I have is I don't know if the state would allow us to open those returns or the ballot boxes to be viewed by
Well, us, but I think we need to take that back and find out what the legalities of it. I mean, this would be the first time we've ever encountered this, so we don't know what the legalities of. I don't even know if that's been sealed yet. So,
And who are you thinking is going to do the actual looking at the ballots?
Well, I think that's where the discussion comes in. I mean, it could certainly be the Board of Education.
Board of Education?
I mean, why do I keep saying Board of Education? Board of Elections, and
It would have to be, because otherwise you'd have to have somebody, you'd have to have an oath, you'd have to swear an oath.
right. Well, and I'm just saying, if Stacy and team did it, and we had some folks to watch it, and the other side had an opportunity to watch it as well, then when we walk away from this thing, we can say, it's good.
Now, what you're looking for is, you count the ballots, each vote on the ballot is, one vote, and you total that up at the end, and it matches what we recorded as the vote. Is that
Correct.
what you're looking for?
Yes, ma'am. And what I'm saying is, we don't, on that piece of paper, there's the folks that we voted for, each person voted for. Then there's also the QR code. So, does the QR code match what it said the voter voted for? I mean, who knows? When that is processed through the scanner, does it process what's on that piece of paper? Now, that's what they found in DeKalb County, is when that machine took that ballot, paper ballot through there, it wasn't giving the same results. And I can tell you, Garland Favorino is going to have a press conference tomorrow at 11. And I suspect that this is going to be a part of that discussion. He says there are problems with the machines. And he is very credible. I'm not credible. I'm just a citizen, a concerned citizen.
you're a credible citizen.
And it's a valid question, and there's a lot of buzz out there going around about what they're exactly talking about. But right now, the timing is a challenge because of the runoff. We're going to have polls open all next week. And it's going to take some time to count through.
I agree, we can't do it until after the runoff, because it's gonna take time for us to get everything set up for the runoff.
Yeah, we're already, the way that SB 202 moved everything up to the runoff, I think it was SB 202, anyway, they moved it up. We have like less than 30 days, so that's why we're voting the runoff on the 21st, which normally there was a much longer time frame. I'm not opposed to it, but I'd like to find out what the legalities are, what it is we need to do, and then we can either bring it to public here or other means. But I saw the same article, I've read the same thing, and I'd like to know how that happened. That I don't know how it happened. And they're speculating at this point because they don't know how it happened.
Would it be possible, Mike, to maybe get some comments from some of the other citizens?
Public comments.
Sure, absolutely.
Hi, my name is David Oles, relatively recent, live down here on Camp Road. I had good fortune to help with the election. I was a poll worker down in Nelson on May 24th, so I've got to see firsthand how hard everyone works to get that process through. I have to commend Stacy and her team for a diligent and strong effort to get that done. It ran through without any snags, at least where I was. And I think we have a very dedicated team, so I start off by saying that. That being said, I think it's fair to say that we may have a problem. I think there has been just a massive amount of information that's been released lately. The CISA report was mentioned. I will hesitate to say that we've been lied to about the integrity of the Dominion voting system, but it is very clear that we have been massively misinformed about its security, its reliability, and whether or not it can be penetrated by people that would have motive to interfere with the proper recording of our elections. This has been documented many times. It is now had been known, the report indicates that it's been known now for years, and it hasn't been brought to the attention of the voting public. All the while, we've been given a steady diet of how this is the most reliable system that exists, and we should count on it, and somebody is lying to us. And we are now awake to this, and the voting public is asking for answers. So we come to this board. This board is dedicated, interested, responsive, and we certainly appreciate that. But there's an issue here that I think where the board can get involved. We, the voting public, count upon this board to safeguard our elections. All right, we're not in a position to do anything about it. We can see it, we can hear about it, we can question it, but at the end of the day, we have to come to you and ask for your help to make sure that our systems are accurate and our systems are good. And that's, to add my voice to Gary's, that's exactly what we're asking for here today. It's not just the DeKalb County problems. There have been problems reported in Chatham County. There have been multiple race challenges filed down there. Other ones across the state. There are now multiple county election supervisors raising questions about this. Andover and Cherokee County to our south just issued a well-publicized letter last week to the Secretary of State calling out some of the issues that have been identified by the people, pointing out that we need the Secretary of State to act and to help us and to give the boards the authority to go in, because the law does restrict what you can do with these ballots. There's no doubt about that. And that raises questions in itself why the legislature would not entrust the election supervisors or the election boards with doing something as simple as a hand count. And we're not a complicated county. We're a relatively small county. It's a relatively modest effort for us to do that. We have the ballots. It seems a relatively simple thing to just be able to count them and then compare the results of those ballots with the results of what the machines have returned. I do encourage the board to make an inquiry as to the legality of it. I think there are some provisions of the law that can be investigated that might provide some support for that. But whether that gets done or not, I think it would be very good for this board to raise its voice along with the others that are calling upon the Secretary of State, that are calling upon the legislature to give it the authority that it needs, not to tie its hands, to let it do these simple checks to make sure that our elections are fair and that they are accurate. Because it is not simply the glitches that we're seeing, or the CISA report. Those are things that have been noted. But the law requires that each voter, the law of the state of Georgia requires that each voter, in using the Dominion voting system, is able to have a printout that allows them to verify what their vote was. I don't know about the rest of you, but when mine printed out, I got a listing of all the candidates that I voted for. I got a list of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 on the ballot questions with yes or no, and no listing of the questions. So no one in this state could determine whether or not their answers to any of their questions were accurate. That seems like a glaring error. But the most important thing is when you had that piece of paper in your hand, what did everybody see? You saw that great big QR code at the top of it. Can anybody here read QR? I can't. How hard would it be for them to be able to provide us with a reader that allows us to put that QR code under the reader and show us exactly what it shows? Because I maintain that without that, we are unable to verify whether or not that machine captures the vote that we say we entered. We just got a piece of paper. We don't know whether or not once it's scanned into the system, it has captured what our vote is. We don't have the ability to go on the Secretary of State's website and verify how our individual vote was captured. We certainly should have the ability at the county level to be able to at least verify what's on that piece of paper, which only highlights why it's so important that we have the ability to do an audit. Because right now, I maintain that the system is not in compliance with the law. It does not allow us to verify our votes. This is an issue for the legislature to address. We call upon this board to raise its voice to our appointed legislatures. Let them know that we are demanding this kind of scrutiny. We are demanding that they provide us what the law says that we're entitled to, which is to verify our own vote. Until we get that, we won't have a secure election. The law won't be complied with, and we are going to have bigger problems in the state of Georgia than we already have. I don't think we can count on Mr. Raffensperger to do this for us.
He's already failed his
If there is a problem with the system, if those who speculate that it is possible, it's more than speculation, the CISA report says that, you can upload software to these machines that cause them to weight the way the vote goes ahead of time, and you will never know it without being able to verify. If this is possible, and if this has been done, Mr. Raffensperger has been one of the largest beneficiaries of such a device, and I do not believe that we can count on blindly his integrity in doing the right thing here. I think this is for the legislature. I think we need much more than calling upon the Secretary of State. And I hope this board will join us in helping to make sure that our elections are secure. Thank you.
DeKalb County has done it. What is holding us back from calling DeKalb and saying what?
Timing.
Well, I'm not, I got time.
No,
We're talking about
not you
legality.
timing. I'm
We're
saying
talking
there
about
was
legality.
timing with us because they were already, the lady had
But I'm
gone
hearing
around.
two things, Mike. I'm hearing two.
What's your name, please?
My name is Kim. Last name is Bunker, like Archie or Hill. Okay? So, two things I'm hearing. We're talking about legal, and then we're talking about timing. Timing is calendar, I can't fix calendar. But you're talking about authority, legality. DeKalb has already done it, so that's a sister county. I don't understand why it's a legal question.
Because they brought it up on the day of or whatever, and they chose to go in. I don't know what other kinds of things they may have done to access those ballots. That's a question that we don't have an answer to.
So,
And they didn't report it, but we will definitely be going in and checking out what it is that we need to do to open that up in order to facilitate a count.
but we have a resource that's already done it.
Of
We have a
course, I'm not, yeah, and I never indicated that we weren't. I'm just saying that they may have already gone through that legality piece that we don't know what is necessary.
That's right.
We can find
We have a
out.
footprint. We have somebody that's done it. That's my point. So we have a resource.
And there's
And
actually
we
a couple
intend
counties
on-
that have done it. We gotta
So-
find out what process they did to get approval to go ahead and look at those
So it
ballots
sounds
and
like
calculate with the ballots and do it.
Joe has somebody he can reach out to.
Yes, I totally agree that, we will do whatever we need to do to find out legally how they did it and how we can do it.
So it can be done. That's my point.
Oh,
So
yeah.
so the answer to the legal problem is that there isn't a legal problem. We just need to know the process.
Right.
Okay. So the timing issue, for me, it's more, I also have a question wrapped up in that. We have a runoff. Like, we're a small county. We had 7,400 votes,
76 for governor, 74 for secretary of state.
and this is going to be for what? You said it's a District 1, just the commissioner, and then we have
On
lieutenant
the
governor
Republican ballot, and then 4 races on the Democratic ballot.
on the Democratic ballot, which is very low turnout. So we're not expecting a very large entourage of need. Is that what I'm hearing?
You're hearing that it won't be that big of a turnout.
Exactly, okay.
But it's still all
So-
12 precincts with all the personnel
Sure.
and all the equipment and doing the LNA testing ahead of time, getting it all ready.
Advanced voting.
Advanced voting and all that.
Much smaller manpower demand.
No,
No, same
Well,
manpower.
it's from the volunteer side. So,
there'll be as many people manning the polls as was at the primary election.
no?
No, we won't have, we
Well,
won't have as many
not
poll
poll
workers,
watchers. We won't have poll
for
watchers, but
the
the workers
runoff as we did. We're looking at hopefully, trying to do it with 4 poll workers and a manager, because we're only sending 4 machines to each precinct.
But we'll still have all precincts. open.
So, generally speaking, I'm not looking for specifics. This is a smaller demand overall. Timing-wise, we have voting on June 21st. You've got the office. That's a different piece.
They voted from the 13th to the 17th.
So that's still office, really.
No, that's early voting over here at the rec center.
Well, it's still a smaller overall demand.
Are you concerned that we can't get it done until after the runoff?
A little bit, yes. So I'm trying, because in terms of, I'm not quite sure, given our size compared to these other counties that have already got it done and already know the process, and what I'm hearing is a little bit of, we don't know, I don't this, a lot of uncertainty from this group.
You
It's
would
concerning.
expect, you would be correct. This is our first run-through ever as a board and staff.
Okay.
And
Kim, one thing I would like to add is, you guys are looking at it from your point of view, and I just want to stress to each of you how serious this is. I mean, the citizens of Pickens County have lost confidence in the voting system.
We're voters too.
I know, but I'm not saying all voters, I'm just saying a large percent.
I'm with you. I don't think that that's the case, but if you guys are sensing uncertainty, you'd be correct, because we don't know what that looks like yet.
And that's okay to say. I think what I'd like to hear is a little bit more proactive, we're going to get on it.
Well, we will,
That's what I
as
want to hear.
soon as we can
As soon
start.
as it's reasonably possible.
So,
Right, like,
but if you don't know, how can you determine what's reasonably possible?
Well, that's what we
That's
have to
what we
find
don't
out.
know.
That's what we have to find
So
out.
it would be reasonable to say that maybe you can do it before the runoff.
I don't think so.
I don't see that happening.
Let me explain to you that during early voting, and during the runoff election, I had a staff of 4, and 2 of those people work early voting every day, and 2 of those same 2 people are poll managers. So that leaves the 2 of us in the office, just us.
So, but you wouldn't be part of the recount anyway.
Yeah.
Our office would have
Who's gonna
to.
do it?
Yeah.
Well, it wouldn't be, I mean, I wouldn't think paying staff, be more board. I mean, from,
I will be glad to reach out to the Secretary of State's office tomorrow and also DeKalb County and surrounding counties to find out the information on how to go about the process of this. And then we can, put it to a vote for our board. If they decide that that is what they want to do, then we can move forward with it. But I'll be glad to find the information that we can about the process and how to go about
I
this.
think that would be excellent.
Stacy, would it be possible, I know from dealing in business for 40-plus years, that I was held accountable every step of the way. Instead of just leaving it out in the ether for we're going to look at this when it's reasonable, I'd like to, let's put some parameters on when you find out what you learned from the Secretary of State's office, which I'm concerned about what kind of response you're going to get
I would
there.
probably go to county first.
And DeKalb County, I'd like to, let's put a pin in a date next Tuesday or something, that we're going to know what the Secretary of State says and what DeKalb says and what we can do, and put it on the Board of Election website so we as citizens know what you're doing.
I think the more transparent you can make this, the better integrity this whole thing is going to have. I mean, if you start trying to hide things and say you can't do things and it's not transparent, that's just going to make things worse. I think right now you have an extremely good team and everybody trusts this team, but you've got to be transparent because he's right. The voters, they're just losing it. A lot of them are saying, I don't know whether there's any point
I hear your
to
urgency,
vote.
and I hear your concern,
Yeah.
and I think we all do. But
My name is
until
Mary Ann
we
Rager,
make some phone
and I
calls,
think y'all are just fantastic, and you obviously have the well-being of this community at heart. Unfortunately, I'm thinking to myself that there's a runoff coming with a problem, possibly, these machines. So what good is the runoff? So that's in my heart. I'm feeling that. And I'm wondering if we could take a stand and possibly use the runoff as an opportunity to check out this here voting machine and the process. Might be a little work. I've been cleared, and I'm happy to take an oath. I do believe I already have. And I just want to see every single registered voter vote count the way they want it, because that's how we have this country. Might only be one little vote, like one little drop of rain, but it all counts. It all counts. We count. We may be small, but we are fierce. And we have to stand by integrity. And if our party doesn't win, oh shucks nuts, that's the way it goes. But we've got to make sure that this is accountable. And machines, well, has anybody ever had a problem with their computer? So that's all I have to say. But a runoff election, with this problem, I think this actually takes precedence, and I think if enough people get together and make this a precedent, even over the runoff, I don't have any confidence in that. Do you? So, I thank you all so much, really, from the bottom of my heart. This is a wonderful, wonderful place to live. I'm a new resident. I married this gentleman in October, and he is a Vietnam vet. And a lot of blood has been spilled for this country. We're only a vote. Just remember the blood being spilled for this country. Thank you.
I'd just like to say, I'm Lucy Hoffman, and I've lived in this area, and I think Georgia's a beautiful state. I love this area, and Peter and I, my husband here, are poll watchers, and we know that the people here have integrity and do what's right. But I will say what I do know about the machines, all, not just Dominion, but ES&S, birthed Dominion, and the Smartmatics, and all of them have had some problems. The IRS has been breached, you know. So to me, if France says with 70 million people say that we can't use machines because we know there's potential for fraud, we shouldn't use it either. And I think none of us here want to try to say, well, we want our way. Of course, everybody would like to take voting, but they won't vote for it. But we just want every citizen to have a vote and it be legal, and we don't want some machine or some other foreign country. And listen, I have a son in the military. I do know that those machines can be hacked. I also know that they can flip it with a switch and modem, and I do know Dominion did not come in with the last thing. They refused to let anybody see it because they say, oh, we're a private business, we can't show our code. It was suspicious. We're not the only state that's suspicious. They're having big problems in Colorado. And, you know, there's all these that just had this the last time at the election. So I think it's only fair that we show this nation, that little Georgia here, we are credible and we have integrity, because if you get on some of the news channels that are conservative too, Raffensperger has a bad name. And especially because he did not let the legislatures in the 2020 election do their job. And also, he called Jeff Duncan when there was supposed to be something to help our elections be even more secure. And the board there was going to vote for it. And he told Jeff, don't put it on the floor. It just looks nefarious to us. And we'd just like to be sure, you know, and that's why we're here, because we know the people in this area, and we know it's a great place. And we know that these people, you all, everybody here, it wouldn't be here if they didn't want to do what's right for the next generations and the next generations. And it's not a problem, I think, that just happened with 2020. I think it's been happening for a while, but since we got these machines. But it bothers me because I don't know if this is true. This is allegedly that I heard that Kent bought these machines from Chinese nationals that came out of Houston. Now, I don't know if that's true or not, but I've heard it. But I'm just saying, I just think we just need to be sure to clear this out. And I've seen this, that they had someone come into Congress who's a computer expert who said, when I'm verifying, that these machines are not reliable and they don't want anybody to do it. They come in and do an inspection before they come in and out. Who knows what they're doing? I just think that if other countries across the ocean don't want to use them because they think there's fraud, that we shouldn't use them either. And I think it's taxpayers' money to go, that, you know, I think it would be nice to have a say. And we do appreciate that we have a voice, because that's what I think we want, a voice. Thank you.
Well, I'm with you, and I'll do everything I can, and whatever Stacy needs help to do, to see that this happens. Joe, I appreciate it. The biggest problem we have is people not showing up to vote because of this issue. I have talked to the state party today. In terms of legality, the problem is, I think the big problem is that it's not understood, and on all sides, in regards to the ballots, in terms of swearing in or having certain members of parties look at the ballots, you can't tell from that ballot whose ballot that is. Not at all.
No.
So in terms of Privacy Act, all I'm looking at is who voted for who on that ballot. My understanding is that that has been addressed, and in certain cases, it's been allowed, and in certain cases, it hasn't. So, again, I understand that talking to the Secretary of State, does it take a court order to make that happen? Will it take a lawsuit to make that happen? I just want to make sure that, again, that people are showing up to vote, and not because they're worried about the machines or someone's got some crazy garbage out on the internet that is avoiding people from showing up to vote. Again, I think we could easily, as small county as we are, we could easily knock this out. And obviously, as the party, we've put resources to that to help accomplish that. Again, knowing that we can't see whose ballot that is. All we know is who they voted for, but not who actually placed that vote. So again, if we can put resources to helping accomplish this, as long as we're allowed to and be sworn in, 5, 10 people in a room, 7,000 ballots, that can be accomplished in a day.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Where are the ballots?
Yeah. They're in our office.
Where are the ballots now?
They're in our office.
Okay. They're not locked up?
No, they haven't been sent to the courthouse yet.
So, Mike, did you have some, y'all did?
Yeah, I'm Mike Ralston, and I'm precinct development for the Republican Party. And we had about 30 people, and they would be, I'm sure, very willing to do something like Chris was talking about. And I'd just like to reiterate what other people said. This is my first go-around, and from what I saw from the poll watchers and the workers, and my wife worked in one poll, I worked in another, very dedicated, very great people. The people that came in, voted, recorded the vote, put it in the machine, that all tabulated fine. It's machines, it's less than the machines.
Well, even the QR code
And-
itself is.
And would there be a way to actually, I'll have actually suggested this, to do something for the runoff, because there's going to be a lot less people, to kind of have a,
Set a precedence. Just
Have-
have
have
our
a
county
dual
set a
system.
precedence and say, we're not going to use the machines in our runoff. We're going to count them,
Just a paper ballot.
the paper ballot.
Do you have to use those machines?
Yes.
Under the guise of possible fraud?
There's already a
Because there's a
county
real
that,
question.
one county tried that already, and they were sued into oblivion to
But
make it
not under
happen.
these circumstances.
But all we can do is check into that kind of thing. Again, I don't know what to tell you, but I can generally tell you that I don't think that's gonna happen. But we can certainly go back and look at either count what we had or audit in the runoff. We just need to have time and put a pin in it. We just need to know from Stacy how long she thinks that might take to get that information. And then we'll provide some update. And then from there, we can decide how we're gonna count it.
I'm available this weekend. If we've decided we can do it, let's just do it this weekend. If we got a place to go, can you get this room?
I will start first thing in the morning,
Fine.
contacting to figure out what the process would need to be. I believe in order for us to go forward with it, we would need the board to vote on it. So I can find out information tomorrow, and if we need to have a special call meeting for the board to make that vote, we can do that.
I have a question. In regards to the primary coming up or whatever,
The runoff. yeah.
runoff, could you, when you get your ballot and put it in the machine, is there a way to get a copy of two? One goes in the machine, one goes in a box. That way, when it's all said and done, that night you can actually count physically and then compare it to the machine?
You can't make copies of the ballot.
You can't? Okay.
That's what it's, they designed that QR code, even our readers on our phone, it won't read.
No.
They've designed it purposely.
Now, two things, if I may. The first is, just as a practical matter, at the end of the day, in the precinct, we do have to take those ballots out and then transfer them to another container. How hard would it be on a runoff election like we're talking about to simply count them as they come out? We're talking about 2 elections maybe that you want to, or actually it's just one, that you want to look at. How hard would it be to simply count, what is it, a couple hundred as they come out?
Yeah.
Just as a...
Well, the people have been there 12 hours before it gets through, and it's only something that you can ask poll workers to do.
It's almost like you have to have a different
Oh, I'm
process
there.
here.
Yeah, and you've got chain of custody issues.
Right. Well, you're not changing anything. All you're doing is counting as you're moving them from one container to the next. And how hard would that to do? But another point, if you're going to go to the county attorney, just a word, I've been an attorney for a long time, you will get maybe 2 different answers from an attorney. If you ask him, Phil, are we allowed to do this? Or you go to him and said, Phil, the people are demanding that we do this. We need you to find us a way to make it happen. You may get 2 different answers. That's it.
I know we probably have a contract with Dominion, but Dominion's supposed to be working for us. Is there no way we can get people that are, that are IT people that really know computers, not just and be able to check them, not them. They're the ones that are checking it, and how do we know we trust them? Because they're out of Nebraska, they came from ES&S, and there has been questions, and it's been all over. It's not just in our state, it's been a lot. And we're finding out, because of Soros and Zuckerberg and all these big tech, they have been paying big money, even to our CDC, they paid $1.3 million to keep our kids out of school, to try, and they get money, and that's bad. Our people that we elect to keep our country safe and to keep us safe are not keeping us that way. And so, that's why we came too, because we know that you guys, and I'll say this, but I have been here enough to know, and when working as a poll watcher too, it's not the trouble with the people. And it's not the people that are, these people are wonderful to give their time, like you guys, to listen to us and do that. But the problem lies when you have a person like Dominion, well, you've got a contract and we're not going to do it, we'll sue you. Well, if they were, why aren't they transparent? Why don't they let somebody see these things? They don't. I mean, when they were trying in Maricopa County too, the Democrats and some of the radicals were suing them because they don't want people to find out what's true.
Well, if we actually physically count the ballots, the 2 races and what Gary suggested, that's going to give us confirmation, or it's going to raise the question of either higher, and we can answer the question at that point. And it goes right back to what you originally talked about, and I forget your name, but Kim. You also mentioned the very same thing, and I think that will do it. Stacy will get those answers tomorrow to whether or not we can proceed and how we proceed, and then we can make a decision with that, Josh.
Anybody else? Okay, I just want to address a couple of things, and with your permission. Yes, sir. I read and am still reading the CISA report thing with and I wanted to make it clear that in every one of those possibilities of those flaws that they brought up required physical access to the machine, which required somebody with a USB or SD card or whatever is being used. And they were mostly all talking about the BMD, where you mark your ballot. I just want you guys to know that at least from this office, those areas are secured, and the only people that have access to those are this staff. This board doesn't even really touch that equipment. We might be there for LNA testing to help, but we don't do anything. And then those areas that are secured, all that, they're on there with a security tag. Not a person can just open up and go to that. It's going to be recognized by either the poll worker, or if we got poll watchers there that are tracking those numbers too. I'm not saying it can't happen. I'm just saying that it's not something that happens over some kind of a web internet connection. It's got to have physical access to the BMD.
Mike, just a simple comment. My concern is, I mean, when Stacy and team did the logic and testing.
Logic and action, yeah.
Yeah, and, you know, one vote, one result, you confirmed it. My concern is there embedded code in the machines that says on the testing day, it's going to do this, and then on voting day, it does this. That's the concern. That's where we lose confidence in the machine, see? And that's why, I mean, I get it, doing, you know, the count on the runoff, but more importantly, we need to do this primary. That's where the real meat is.
So, to get there, so from an LNA testing perspective, and you can certainly correct me if I'm wrong, but that system doesn't know that it's an LNA test. There's nothing that you go in and speculate or check to say this is LNA testing that we're doing. Every ballot mark that they do, it's not just one. They have to ensure that every one of those on that BMD, of every selection, is selected and counted on every single one. And the BMD itself doesn't know that it's not election day.
I sure hope so. Volkswagen managed to figure out a way to program their cars that they knew when they were being tested, and they gave a different result.
And I'm not saying that it's software. So I'm just telling you, this is what we do, and of course, I didn't write the firmware. I don't know how the firmware works. You know, so is it possible? Yes. What can we do about it? Well, we're going to see about trying to consolidate the ballot images, ballots with the actual counted votes.
And you said for governor and secretary of state.
Yes, ma'am.
So, but I think furthermore, because I know about the QR code. Now, I want to say, so I don't remember exactly how long ago it was, but I believe that lawsuit about that QR code, that's been thrown out by a judge. I don't know the full statutes of that and when or anything else, but I read that recently. Not to say that it's still not right, because I agree with you. I'd like to see it too. But coming, and it hasn't been approved yet, but we saw this at conference, so I just want you guys to know. I have seen at conference on the Dominion machine an actual ballot that looks exactly like a ballot that you mark, and it prints it out like a regular looking ballot. You can see what you selected, front and back, whatever, and you slide it through, and that's how it counted. No QR code. That's coming, but it's not approved by the state yet. Just to give you all some insight, but that's all I have.
So you want us to check like Secretary of State, the name with the votes that were actually tabulated, right? And nothing to do with the QR code, what's on the paper ballot that the voter looked at and said, yes, I voted for Brian P. Kemp, and that's one vote for Brian P. Kemp.
Yes, ma'am.
And I'm not sure that the QR code is necessarily the culprit. We haven't done, I don't think there's enough experimentation done to know that that's for a fact the problem. But that's part of the flow chart, you might say. It's part of the link, and you've got to look at it. But I think you could also go beyond that and just look at the ballot itself compared to what the end result is on the end of the day at the voting machines. They should add up. And if they don't, then something was changed. It could be done by the QR code, it could be done some other way, some embedded software. We don't get a copy of the code that's inside the machines because it's top secret by Dominion. So we don't really know what it's doing inside. It's like putting your ballot in a black box and you hope that it's giving you the result that you think it's giving, but you don't really know for sure. And that's where the more transparent we can make this, the better the voters are going to feel about going to the election and just actually voting.
And I don't know if y'all are aware, you might be, but starting in November for the general election, the state is requiring every county to do audits from elections here on out. They haven't discussed with us the process of that yet, but starting with November, every county will have to do an audit.
Yeah, but Stacy, we were promised audits before you were even in place. So let me get that. Before you were even in place. An audit consisted of taking the same ballot and running it through the machine again. They did absolutely nothing.
Yeah, if it's a bad ballot, it's gonna be bad again.
Yeah, and like I said, they've given us no information on
We don't know
the
how to
process and how we're gonna do that. We've just been told since January to be ready that every county will do audits come November.
And I agree, actually, looking at the physical ballot and counting from that standpoint, it's going to give you the most valid tabulation to measure against.
You know, if you do that, it's still not perfect because everybody that walks up, and I was watching them, you know, they put that in there. Did people check to see whether or not what was on there was actually what they picked? Some looked at it, a lot of them just, and they didn't really check. And if we do that, then that's our fault, right? Because we are not doing our job. But what happens once we put it in, that's something else. And that's what we're asking for help with.
And I would still speak to the fact that there's clearly issues with these machines, which creates a contractual issue from my perspective. As a county mandated to use a machine that is not appropriately working. It's a problem.
Well, I think that this would solve it. Is it a machine problem or is it something more nefarious up the chain?
Well, it's all the
that
same.
Makes us question whether these elections
our
are valid or
mandate.
not. And if we don't have secure elections, we don't have a country. I mean, we're no longer governed by the people. We're something else entirely. So I think that's why this is the one issue that a lot of us feel passionately about. Because if we don't have elections, we're no longer a republic.
The one thing you can trust is a paper ballot, to your point. Paper ballots are trustworthy.
And manually count those?
Yep, whatever it takes.
They do that in France.
That works
Whatever it
okay
takes,
here.
one day. Yeah, it's great, actually.
In bigger.
One day.
Yeah.
You know, in this county we could.
Yeah.
In this county we could. I'm not worried about another county. I'm worried about
If you're
this
just
county.
doing two spots.
No, she's talking about long-term by getting rid of the machines and just going paper ballots altogether and then manually counting those.
Well, I will tell you that this is one of the things that one of the candidates for Secretary of State recommended, serialized, waterproof paper ballots that has an electronic reader. And that would eliminate a lot of this. You've got the actual paper ballot, and then you've got the mechanical reader. That'll never happen now since Mr. Raffensperger is in there. But that could be done.
Yeah, that method will actually give you an audit trail all the way back to the voter. And that's really a good method.
This isn't working.
May I say one thing, and Mike, to your point earlier, my name's Carolyn Childers. I served on the election board for 10 years, was a poll manager for many, and was on the review panel November of 2020, and was a part of every single recount. It's before any of you were here. I watched the Dominion guy put in a USB, and we were not supposed to ask questions, but I couldn't help myself. I said, "Can you tell me what you're doing?" He said, "A backup." I said, in the middle of a count? I mean, just run us back through and stuff in there. I said, I bet, yeah, and then I gotta do an update, and I'm like, I'm not a computer genius by no means, but that sent some red flags up. Just saying, this is before any of you were here, but there has been some monkey business going on in Pickens County. I witnessed it.
Anyone else?
I'm Margaret Smith, and I was a poll watcher at Yellow Creek, and I believe at the end of the day, we had two erroneous, it was an erroneous count, where the actual scanner didn't end up matching the BMD. Yeah, so it was two, and so you can't just walk away saying, well, maybe those people walked off with those votes. There's no way of knowing, instead of scanning them. So I think we've had a lot of, like you mentioned, we're onto it now, so I think we're paying attention. And because this has been going on for a long time. I mean, this has been going on since the 50s. My husband's mother was a poll worker, and she would come home at the end of the, and this was up in New Jersey. So it was corrupt as all get out. But I think we just can't walk away saying, well, maybe those people just walked off with their votes and didn't scan them.
Okay, so your BMDs and your scanner could necessarily not match, because if you had to spoil a ballot,
Right.
you cannot spoil that ballot in the BMD. So your spoiled ballots, if there was two, you should have had two spoiled ballots.
We didn't have any spoiled ballots.
Okay, then there's an issue.
Yeah, I would believe so. No spoiled ballots, and actually I think it was Gary Cooper, who was our poll manager there that day. He said he never had an issue with provisional ballots, ever. I mean, and we had two that day. Then absentee ballots came in that they wanted to
Surrender.
they wanted to vote there instead of, so we had to do some, and they were allowed to vote on the BMD instead of, you know, I don't know what the procedure is there, but, you know, it's just marking everything down that I saw. But those are the things that I saw going on. It was interesting, somebody showed up that shouldn't even belong in the state. She said, and I know her personally, she's a resident, and as she walked by me, she said, apparently they moved me out of the state. That happened to two people. Another one was a deceased person. He looked pretty alive to me. So these are things that were going on that day. It was very interesting to see what was going on. So I think Gary and the gentleman sitting next to you, that's, I think we need to do something about that. Count the votes. And I believe that the it's going to be in the machine probably that we're going to have. And Governor Kemp bought these machines for 10 years, so we're stuck with them. That's what I believe. I heard.
We're not stuck with them.
Absolutely not.
I heard we were stuck with them for
We're
10
not
years.
Not,
We pay for them.
Taxpayers.
Yeah.
I agree with you.
We're not stuck
but
with
not
them.
Well,
stuck,
that's what
not with
they-
this fraud.
We have to pay
Not with
for
this
'em.
fraud. Not with this fraud.
Yeah,
Not
we're
with
stuck
this
with
level of
them.
deception. Absolutely not.
Let's
Fight it to the
That's
very end.
hopeful. I agree. That's what I saw. Interesting.
I want to thank the board for listening to us today and taking all the
Well,
time you
thank
have.
you for being here and bringing this to us. We want to help. We're going to help every way we can.
And we know you want to help.
Thank you.
And we're very thankful that we have the board members that we do.
And I'd like to take an opportunity to say that everybody that was a poll worker or a poll manager, a poll watcher, thank you. We,
Can't do it without you.
I mean, you guys are the meat of this thing, and we thank you very much. It's just,
And we can't be everywhere all the time.
no, we can't be everywhere all the time, and we did have a couple of little glitches, you know, with maybe a plastic part broke, you know, that holds up the driver's license or something, you know, but we didn't have any major issues that I'm aware of. We do have an IT guy that's very good, very prompt, and we had a problem with one of the iPads, but as it turned out, it happened to be the cord. He went down there, and the battery was getting low, even though it was plugged up. He got down there and changed the cord out, and everything was fine. So.
And Christina will be able to attest to this. One thing that we did for this election that had not been done prior was we have incident reports. So if you have a situation where something does not add up, like I said, we are not in the precinct. We can't be there, we can't see it. But they have the incident forms to fill out and document everything so that way we can go back and research it after the fact. And if it was somebody that the state had that had moved out of the state on their list, you know, we can address the state, we can let them know the person's name, their information, that way they can get it changed in the system. Why, you know, it sends over that they moved out of state when they did not, I do not have an answer for that, but that's the only way that we can go about trying to rectify it and correct it, is if we have these incident reports. That way we can document everything, including the person's name.
Stacy, in keeping with that incident report that you're referring to is the responsibility of the poll manager.
Yes.
So you should have had a copy of that incident report that Margaret is alluding to.
Mm-hmm.
So that being said, I just wanted to kind of clear the air on that.
What she's speaking about, like we do have incident reports.
Okay. One last thing, and I know you guys are tired of listening to us, but can we kind of have a resolution on where we are and what the next steps are, so we're just not kind of willy-nilly, so we can kind of all agree what the next steps are?
Tomorrow morning, I'm going to contact the Secretary of State's office, and I will also reach out to other surrounding counties to figure out what we need to do to move forward and how to do this process. Then we can do a special call meeting for the board to vote if they want to do the recount, and we'll go from there.
Those surrounding counties, would that include DeKalb?
We can reach out to DeKalb.
Please do, because that's the epicenter.
Yeah.
And it's gonna be an organized process.
Yeah, how will we find out when this meeting is?
You're more than welcome. We'll post it. If it's a special call meeting, we notify the media within 24 hours, but you're more than welcome to give our office a call tomorrow if we can tell you anything tomorrow. If not, give us a call on Friday.
Gary, and first time that I get some answers about it, I will notify Chris, and Chris can make it known, and these guys can notify their rep, and they can make it known on their side.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you. Can I just say something?
Sure, absolutely.
Okay, so I had honor of working with Larry. He was my poll manager, and I worked with him during the January runoff. And then when Larry became on the Board of Elections, I think he threw me under the bus. And suggested that I become the poll manager. But great. It was so good. Stacy called me to make sure I was okay. The book that you guys put together was great. Anytime I called, they were very responsive. They put somebody on the phone, walked me through it if we couldn't figure it out. And just coming by, the Board of Elections came by, checked on us throughout the day. It was just awesome. And we really appreciate it. We really appreciate it. And yes, poll workers work hard. I mean, you know, you don't get paid that much. I could have made more money at work and not taking a vacation day, but, you know, I felt like it was my duty to do this and help Pickens County. And yes, I want everybody to vote. No, I can't tell you how to vote. I would love to, but I can't. I just want everybody to vote, because I think
the generations after me have forgotten that men, like this gentleman back here, like Larry, and anyone else who served, fought for that freedom for us. And they've forgotten that. And I get so upset when I see that we have, what, 23,000 and something voters and only 7,300 showed up. That makes me so upset. We have forgotten what men and women did to allow us that vote. And we need to instill that, but people will not show up because of these machines. So we've got to fix this problem. So these young kids and these people who just don't have any faith in the system anymore keep coming out. So if we have to get louder, we will. So we got to vote. That's the only way we're going to have fair elections, is call them on this stuff and get these people out and vote. So, but thank you guys for everything.
Yeah, if manpower is an issue doing the counts, is it that hard to get sworn in to help? I mean, if we had to throw 10 people at it?
I don't think getting 10 people to do it is going to be an issue. I think, again, just let us figure out what the process is, and if we need help, we know where to get it. These guys can certainly reach out to their constituents as well. Obviously, getting help doing that isn't an issue, so thank you, but let us at least figure out what the process is and give us an opportunity to put that out there.
Anyone else?
Just again, thank you guys for letting us have a voice.
Well, thank y'all for being here, really. We don't know unless you tell us, and so we appreciate it. That's what we have these open meetings for. It just means a lot to me to see this many people here. Thank you. Board comments?
None to me.
Anything?
No, I'm done. I'm done.
I'll just say, overall, I think everything went really well. I think our using board members to go between the precincts, not everybody knows, but I'll go ahead and say it. Stacy provided each of the board members with boxes of extra forms and other types of materials that might be needed if they ran out. I'm not aware of any issues where we did, but at least in the precincts I was assigned to, and but if they did, it would require somebody coming from the office. We had it right there. We could provide it. Again, staff, poll workers, poll watchers, I think everybody did a great job. There's literally no waiting in line, which we all know. I know that there wasn't the turnout that we normally had, but I think that we can feel confident that the process that we have is working, and that any lines that we do have are going to be minimal compared to what we've dealt with in the past. And just all around, great job, staff, all staff, board members, poll watchers, poll workers, thank you.
And we did something else on this election for the first time, is that board members paired up separate parties, Democrat and Republican, went around in vehicles and picked up the SD cards and brought them back to the Board of Elections so we could tabulate quicker than usual.
Chain of custody.
Yeah.
And we had to sign off for everything that we did.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So nobody touched it but us.
In a sealed envelope.
Plus, I think there was a sheriff that was in our precinct.
They're all of them at the end.
They were at each precinct at some time of the day. If they weren't there, they were very close. There were extra officers on duty that day. We met with the sheriff's office before the election and made sure that, they could respond if we needed. But hats off to Sheriff Craig for working with us. We appreciate it. Okay. Any more board comments?
I just want to say that I want to thank you for being respectful to us and just allowing the discussion without us getting into
name calling.
Yeah, back and forth. But I hear what you're saying. I'm not sure Yeah, I really don't know what, and I've read the reports too, and I've had questions, so let's just look into it. But I do want to thank you for being respectful in the dialogue, so thank you.
There's no reason to be disrespectful. I mean, it's a lot easier to be able to sit down and talk with each other than throw out lawsuits and cost everyone tons of money, and no one gets anywhere. You know, I mean, really.
I mean,
Yeah.
you've seen the reports on series where they're just like, you know, yelling at each other, and that never gets you anywhere.
We all want fair. I think we all want the same thing.
Right.
We all want the same thing. I mean, everybody wants fair elections.
Yeah, we want to be a country.
Motion to adjourn. Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Seconded?
All in favor? All opposed? We're adjourned.